Right, guys. This is the last really chilly day today, so to say. In the next 2 weeks or so in Bulgaria, it's going to be above 10 degrees from here on in for the rest of the foreseeable. Um, so that'll be nice. Bit of sunshine. It's been overcast. It's not overcast that often in Bulgaria, but obviously every day can't be sunny. So this is the last kind of overcast day. We had a couple of days of rain actually, which is good. It's always good to have rain because it keeps all the spring water going and everything and the rivers. It's obvious really why rain's good. Um, they're just not brilliant. They're okay, but they're not brilliant at conserving the water here, at capturing it, because they've had an abundance and they haven't had severe problems. They have a few shortages here and there. So a lot of it's management. So anyway, so it's getting interesting now, this global stuff, and I like sort of really watching it, but I don't really have that much of a kind of fervent view on on it all. But like from the UK's standpoint, you get Starmer. Like one minute he's over in the USA, like pouring all over the Trump, how great the America and UK is. And they had a couple of excerpts back actually to before Trump was elected, and Starmer said he's anti-Trump, he doesn't like Trump, and they actually sent people over to kind of canvass for Kamala Harris. So it's all this politics. It's like to me, it's kind of it kind of farcical in a way. So then you get Zelensky. They call him Zelensky because he banned Z. He banned Z in Ukraine. The use of Z, but his name begins with Z. So Alex Christoforou says he's got to be Zelensky now. So which is and people actually call him Zelensky by mistake or by just because they obviously watch the Duran. Anyway, even Alexander Mercouris now and again he says Zelensky instead of Zelensky. So and so yeah, so then you get Zelensky going to America and having a bust up, whether rightly or wrongly, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't in the big picture. It doesn't really matter because they're all discussing something that can't happen with the current people, and that is Zelensky and Putin are not going to talk ever. So one of them's got to be not there for anything to move forward between the two countries. And in the meantime, which nobody is like, everyone's taking their eye off the ball. The war is still going full pelt. If you watch the military channel and things like that, it's going for hell for leather. In the Kursk region, looks pretty tricky for the Ukrainians now, and they put a lot of resources into Kursk, which is it's a region of. They had an incursion into Russia, and whoever came up with that one, well, they shouldn't be getting any prizes. So yeah, and I think that's kind of may suit Russia in the end, because it's kind of a little bit of a duck shoot. But they keep saying how many Russians and millions, hundreds of thousands of Russians, how many. are being sacrificed and dying and all the rest of it. But like there are conflicting numbers on both sides, so you won't know the exact numbers, but like you can tell some of it by logic, by the conscription and that kind of thing, and even some people in Ukraine are saying, like Budanov saying, they're running out of men, and Zaluzhny said that before as well. So then Starmer comes back to the UK, and then Zelensky's basically chucked out of USA for now, anyway, and then he goes straight to he follows Starmer, and now Starmer, after crawling all over President Trump, he's crawling all over Zelensky. So, I mean, you've got to look at these things as what you will. So what the UK have got now, which is, pretty safe ground in the UK because of the population, the way they're not informed really about Russia. It's a safe bet. Russia's always the boogeyman. I think we used to call him the bogeyman, and now America calls him boogeyman. So I don't know which is which. Anyway, he's the bogeyman, and Putin's even worse than Russia. But now they've all the Europeans have gone against, or clubbing together around Zelensky. All the hugs have come back now. Everyone's hugging each other again now, which is what they used to do, and then they stopped, and now it's all hugs again, hugging Zelensky, and now they're trying to get together, and they talk about two things, and that the opposite things are the absolute opposite. So I don't know whether they know they're doing this, but like they talk about how to keep the war going and how to win, but they also talk about peace and peacekeeping. So if it's one or the other, I mean, you're either gonna, you don't send a huge European army in for peace. That's going to be for war, and no one's sort of kind of grasping this, that Russia have said anyone comes into Ukraine, it doesn't matter when they call it what they call themselves, they're gonna be classed as combatant people. And I think they've just sent yet another warning. They've just annihilated this training camp, or whatever they come up with to call these things. It's all war, and they've just wiped out 30 of these kind of. This is preempting peacekeepers, which is training people on the soil of Ukraine, and they've just wiped out 30 of them. So this is from the Russian side. But we might find out who they are. Usually it comes out about 2-3 weeks later who they were and which country they were from. They've wiped out quite a few French and quite a few Polish of these so-called training people or advisory people. Now, what kind of role they play is another thing. A lot of people say that they're there for the logistics, and they've got the expertise in programming the missiles and stuff like that. Anyway, whatever they're doing there, they're there. Doesn't really matter. So you've got the safe ground now of the bogeyman, and now they've deemed kind of Trump as another bogeyman. And if you listen to Kaya Kallas, and she's the foreign minister for the EU, which the EU is not a country, so I don't know how you can have foreign minister, but they have anyway. And it's Kaya Kallas, and she is a top warmonger from Estonia, and she's just said, "Oh, you can beat Russia, easy, you know." And then after that, China, not a problem, you know. So you got all these people knocking about, and you've got this Mark Rutte. He was the former globalist from the Netherlands, and he's now the head of NATO, and he's a globalist, and so is a lot of the others involved. And Trudeau's turned up there as well, although he said he's resigning. He seems to be everywhere at the moment. He was in Kiev as well, or Kiev, as they call it. He was there last week or so, or the week before, and they all went to Kiev, and now they all went to Paris, and now they've all gone to London, but they haven't invited certain people, and Estonia is one of them. So Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, because they kind of are very mouthy about Russia. When the Americans are backing them anyway, they are, and I think they haven't invited them because they want the Americans back on board, because they've kind of said that they're quite prepared now to just wash their hands completely, right? And Zelensky, what he did, rightly or wrongly, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. He's now facilitated that America can pull out altogether. And now at least what they've said is, if there's any deals, it won't be with Zelensky. It's impossible to deal with him, and that's what Russia have said as well. So the UK, I mean, they'll get the, this is always a winner. Anti-Russia in the UK, that's always going to be a winner. You know, I watch a guy who lives there in Moscow, the outskirts of Moscow. He's an Australian, and it's called Travels with Russell. And from what I can say, Russia's just a normal place. People go shopping and all the rest of it, and a lot of them there, they're probably not asked about Europe, anything like that, and they probably certainly don't think I think they think the UK is insignificant, a lot of them, which on paper it is, but they have this they still have this diplomatic kind of clout. And now Starmer, he's reveling it all. You know, he's got like Zelensky now. He can get, he's kind of trying to kick the sand in Trump's face by getting Zelensky back on board, and they've both gone back after unsuccessful trips to the Washington DC. They've both gone back, and now they're consoling each other. They're reveling in this situation, and they know that like it'll be very hard for the population in Europe as a whole to not see Putin as the bogeyman, because he's always been kind of painted as this guy who's going to invade Europe at any second. Yet they've been on the border with Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania for the last 30 years. they've been independent, and Russia hasn't done anything except supply them with cheap gas and cheap electricity. So we've just found out, or I have, cheap electric. So that's their idea of a bogeyman and threat and all the rest of it. I mean, who'd want, like, if you look at these places, who'd really want control over Estonia or Latvia, or, you know? And also they've been on the border with Finland forever, Russia, and they haven't invaded there lately since Putin has been there anyway, and there's been never any real threat of it either, you know. And he hasn't invaded Belarus, and he hasn't invaded anywhere. So if you look back at the big picture now, here's the big picture. 2014, this was all kicked off, and America, contrary to what Trump says or thinks, and he wasn't involved. He wasn't on the scene then, and it was Victoria Nuland, John McCain, and Biden was actually vice president then to Obama, and they were all involved with Ukraine, and a lot of people in Canada were as well, like this Chrystia Freeland. She's Ukrainian, and it came out a few months back that there's a lot of Ukrainian kind of dodgy people went there after the war. So that's where these people came from, this Freeland, and they were involved as well in and actually Victoria Nuland said by the time they overthrew the government there, and they actually installed the next government, America, so they're like directly involved with starting all of this, and that's where it started with the overthrow of the government and the installation of another government who were not accepted by the Donbass region. They didn't want them, and so they resisted and declared themselves. This is before Russia was even anywhere near what's the name? Ukraine. And they declared themselves independent, Luhansk and Donetsk region. So these people from Kiev all went down, these private armies all got together with the regular army and went down to sort them out, Luhansk and Donetsk. So it was civil war at that stage, all caused by the Americans. They ousted the president there who was elected, Yanukovych, and they put an unelected government in. And then came Poroshenko and Yatsenyuk and all them. And so that's how it evolved. And then Russia got involved because they were starting to, this new government was starting to be ultra-nationalist, which is not allowed in the UK. And this has just been pointed out, actually. If you watch David Starkey, he says we've got the opposite in the UK as they have in Ukraine. They're ultra-nationalist in Ukraine, Zelensky and his mob and the Banderites. And everyone should have to fill it. Anyone who wants to declare Russia as the bogeyman should have a questionnaire, 10-point questionnaire, 5 questions on Russia and why Russia's the bogeyman and what they've ever done to the UK. And then 5 questions on Ukraine. And I will bet that the majority of people in the UK who have Ukraine flags on Facebook would not be able to answer one of the questions. Like, who are the Banderites? Who's the right sector? Where did they come from? Where did the Azov battalion come from? And that kind of thing, you know. And then 5 questions on Russia and what they've done to anyone apart from this incursion now into Ukraine, which they call a full-scale invasion, which it isn't. There's actually a demarcation, a line. Anyway, that's another story. And then why? And then it would be 5 questions on why the UK and the Ukraine are so joined at the hip. Why we've got this kind of never-ending bond now, which no one ever bothered with Ukraine for 30 years. It was like a failed state run by oligarchs and private armies and corruption and all the rest of it. And it still is now. Certain areas, you know. You're like Lviv, that's where all these banderites hang about. And that's why Hungary and Slovakia, there's a history there, bad history, and even with Poland. And these people, they sided with the wrong, they sided with the, in the Second World War with the other side. And it's still going on, it's still happening today. And they're persecuting the Orthodox Church, the Russian-speaking people, Hungarian-speaking people, and all this kind of stuff. And as David Starkey says, it's the opposite of what's happening in the UK. And he says this national nation-state democracies, which is what Bulgaria more or less is, and people are okay with it. Nationalist on that. And he said they've just rebranded that now as populism. That means nation-state democracy. And it does. That's exactly what it means. Populism. It means a democracy in its original form, which is now being replaced by other stuff where they have these underlying. When they don't like a party, what they do is form a coalition, which then form a majority, which are then more powerful than the majority that won the elections, kind of thing. And in Romania, it's just outright cancel the elections if for whatever reason, if the wrong person's going to win. Because in a presidency, there's no coalition can be formed or anything like that. It's either the president or not the president. And it's kicking off there now, and I think it'll escalate in Romania in the coming weeks and months. We'll see. Or they might just ride it out. They've managed to ride all these things out up to now, everywhere. They haven't got very far in Bulgaria because, as I've explained before, they got these coalitions. And what the Bulgarians are doing, they're forming the coalitions and then collapsing them, rather than forming a coalition, who is the puppet coalition. They tried it, but it didn't work. They tried 2 people, Kirill Petkov and another guy, and both of them had to form coalitions with other people, with other parties, and then the other parties collapsed them. And that's how they do it here. That's from what I can see anyway. Or that's what happens anyway, whether it's on purpose or not. So the puppet goes down with the coalition. Job done. And then they don't have a government for ages and ages. And then that's what they've been doing since 2020 here in Bulgaria. So Bulgaria's now is about very, very quiet on all this at the moment, because obviously they wouldn't be invited, because I think here it's split here. I don't know by what percentages, but it's split here on the shall we say the point of view on the conflict. And one of the points of view is it's a waste of time fighting, and that's my point of view. Complete waste of time, because all these people who are meeting now in London, they all thought in 2020-ish, 2021, before this conflict, they thought that Ukraine was in shape that it could win, a conflict. And they still, some of them still say that. And even Zelensky, he says that. Well, he can't really say anything else if he wants to carry on fighting. And I don't think even he must know that they're not gonna ever win. But I don't know what he wants in the. If he doesn't win, what else they're gonna do? So that's what the Europeans are talking now about: war and peace. That's the book, War and Peace. And they talk about both things in the same sentence. They want peace, but they want to make sure that they carry on fighting for peace. But they know they can't win, or they should do anyway. I think they still can, but there's a lot of people that think they won't, and I'm one of them. And this is it's not being political or anything like that. It's just my opinion, and many other people's opinions, and the majority of people in Bulgaria think it's just, and that's what Orban's always said as well. Viktor Orban, he says you're wasting your time fighting. You might have thought, and then you had an offensive, this big offensive, which they never got 10 kilometres. And they should have realised then, and since, that they're never going to win. They've got no chance. And even less and less and less as the time goes by. It's become more and more and more obvious to those who are paying attention that they're never going to win. So now this clan that's gathered in London, this group of people who are just a mixture of people like von der Leyen, who's unelected head of the European Parliament. They're not a country. They're supposed to be an alliance of all of these nations, but they're not. It's not. It's turned into something else. And then you've got the UK, who's now back in league with these people, more than some of the other countries that are actually in the EU. So nothing that really adds up, except that these are all the people of the same ilk and the globalists. That's what they are, and so they're all now forming this alliance, and now they've got two bogeymen or three. They're anti-Trump, they're anti-Putin, anti-Russia, and anti-China, who supply all the crap goods that we get from there, all the dodgy kind of stuff that they send over, because we don't make anything really. But anyway, so that's what I think. And Turkey are now kind of getting involved in, and they're aligning with both sides, Turkey, as they always do, you know. So we'll see what happens. But like, if you just look at it logically, and you know, I talk to some people, and they can't get past. Can't get past Russia. That's it. Doesn't matter what else happens. They just can't get past Russia. That's it. It's a non-starter, and a lot of these people are the same. Like Kaya Kallas, she's just anti-Russia, and it looks like Annalena Baerbock. She's just nuts. She's just crazy. If you listen to their rhetoric, and like even if Orban says, like, look, it's a waste of time fighting. You've got to stop fighting. That's all he says, really. And now he's pro-Russian. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But I don't think that this European thing is gonna get the Americans back where they want them to be, which is backing them up. I don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, cheers.